All right, everybody. Good morning and welcome to the Mortgage Coach Tuesday interview. Today, we are sitting down with Greg Anderson, top producing team leader out of Seattle, Washington. Greg, thanks for making time today, brother.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dave. Anytime.
Well, you know, one thing I know every time I've ever interviewed you, I always learn new ideas. You are the black belt's black belt. And actually, I guess you're not a black belt because you're a red belt at Mortgage Coach, Grandmaster a couple times over. So anyways, I'm looking forward to learning from you today, brother. And how are things going for you in the marketplace?
They're great. I mean, how do you complain about coming off the best year in the mortgage business ever? And, at least for us and my team, we're eclipsing the numbers we did last year, this year. So we're, it's a lot tougher with purchases, and we're going to talk about that today. Just, you can't, it's no longer the days where you get somebody pre-approved and they're committed to you. They go out and make an offer on a home and then you get the contract on Monday. It doesn't work that way anymore. You might have to be coaching them for several months before they actually get a home. And so, that's taken a lot more work, but we're pretty good at adapting on my team. And so we're doing well.
So notice the word, guys. We may be coaching them for a few months. The loan officer of the future has to be an advisor and coach to both families and realtors. And just to bring everybody up to Greg's numbers. So last year, him and his team did 123 million in production, and they're eclipsing that. Year to date, they've done 68 million. So that really puts you on track to surpass 150 million in production. Is that right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. And
exciting things.
And let's think about this. In a marketplace where refis have dramatically reduced and purchases have become, what do you think? More than 2 times harder than they were last year. What do you think? Like what's the multiple? How much harder is it to help a buyer get into escrow this year versus last year?
In our market here in Seattle, I would say, and this is no joke, I would say it's 10 times harder to get somebody into a home today than it was, say, 2 years ago.
So everyone listening to this, let's do the math. He's on track to do over 20% better than last year. He's got half the refis, and it's 10 times harder to do a purchase, but he's killing it. So I think there's a lot to learn from you, brother. So first of all, for anyone who's listening, walk us through your team. And if there is a difference, like when you tell us how many people you have on your team and you describe your team, if it's different this year than last year, if you could call that out.
Yeah. So I will tell you where I missed the boat a little bit last year was I was not prepared for the refi boom. So I didn't have the right staffing. I didn't adapt as quickly as some did with the stay-at-home, work-from-home Zoom environment. So that's where I failed last year. Now we did a great volume and everything, but we didn't take advantage of the low interest rates as much as we could have. So once we got through to that, I said, hey, we're not going to let this happen again. So I have added to the team. I've added 2 people on the front end since October.
How many total people on your team right now?
Okay, so I have 6 people that work on loans. So I have 3 on the front end. That's lead to contract, and then I have 3 contract to close.
Okay, so 3. So a total of 6 team members, absent processors, underwriters, and the whole back end team, but
right.
A total of 6 team members and 3 on the front end helping you get the app in, and 3 on the back end helping you once you've got the app pre-underwrite and whatever needs to be done.
Right. And last year
transaction.
Right. And last year I was 2 and 2. And I was a little bit weaker on the front end. One of the biggest shifts I made was I took my team captain, longest term loan assistant, and I moved her to the front end. And so once, it took us a little while. We also moved companies, by the way, right at the beginning of the pandemic. So it just took us a while to set in, but once we got it settled in, it's really clicking along now. And one thing I'll add is I've also, as a branch manager, I've been able to add 3 LOs this year, and they are all feeding into the back end. So those 3 people in the back end, they help the other LOs in my branch as well.
So you kind of like Jeremy Forcier. I know he
Yep.
has a similar model. And have you ever coached with Jeremy?
Yeah, Jeremy coached me for a year, and boy, what a life-changing experience. I still talk to Jeremy from time to time, and he's just such a wealth of knowledge and such an inspiration, for those people that are doing well in the industry and want to be able to give back to others, for sure.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna try to get him on Mortgage Coach Community. If you want to hear from Jeremy Forcier, put a comment down below. The more people who want to hear what Jeremy's doing right now, the more likely we are to get him back in the show. So
Even if you don't know, you want to hear from Jeremy.
yeah, right.
I promise you, you're going to get a lot of gold.
Yeah, he consistently is among the top 10 mortgage coach interviews every year. So what else have you changed this year? Any other new technology you're using, new processes? You've added 2 new team members. What else comes to mind? Like, hey, we stopped doing this, we started doing this.
Yeah. So I think basically just like everybody, we've had to pivot and we've had to shift with the market. Okay. So even last year, we still did more purchases than we did refis, right? That's just always been our focus. However, moving into this year, it was a completely different thing. I've never seen this in 16 years in the business. I've never seen the market as crazy hot, inventory short as it is. And so what we have had to come up with is a lot of different strategies. One around, we'll show you some of the TCAs, but just around strategizing around the low appraisal, right? Because if I use this example all the time, if I hire Dave to be my listing agent and Dave says, I've done my job and your house is worth 600,000 and we list it for 600,000 and somebody comes in and bids 700,000 for the house. If I trust Dave and Dave is a professional, then I assume there's no way that appraisal is coming in anywhere over 600,000, right? So then we have to assume that every offer that's made in our market, at least, is going to have some possibility of a low appraisal and a low appraisal gap strategy. So we're covering that with every single client. We're also, I have been calling the listing agents. That's been something that I've done for many, many, many years, but I've also doubled down on that now. So now I call, if I get the listing agent or I don't get the listing agent, I follow up with a video, just a quick text video. And honestly, that's been one of it's so crazy to me because it's so simple, but that has been one of the big things that has allowed me to add additional realtors in the last, 6 months here of just following up with those videos and just being very intentional about our service that we're providing.
So real quick, I've heard from a couple different loan officers I've interviewed this year that it's never been easier or better to recruit agents than it is right now in this year. Do you align with that?
100%.
So let's make sure we cover some, what are you doing to recruit agents? And I think this is one of them. You're calling every listing agent. If you don't get them, you're doing a text video. That's a tactic and strategy, but let's come back to that. Agent recruiting. And then, by the way, before we go down, because I really want to unpack how you're winning in bidding wars. I mean, that was the headline for people to show up, is
right,
how to win bidding wars. So we're definitely going to unpack your playbook for that. But I just want to make sure, is there anything else that you're doing this year you didn't do last year? For example, you do use HomeBot, right?
I use HomeBot.
And you did that last year too?
Yeah, well, I signed up for HomeBot in about July of last year.
So you were a little late to the game.
I was late to the game for sure.
Okay.
And part of that was we switched companies, so didn't have a lot of the technology at my previous company that was available at Caliber. So.
And I hope you have the HomeBot mortgage coach integration turned on.
I do.
Okay.
I do. It's great, by the way, because
you like it?
Yeah. So what's really cool is somebody can go in and they can just request a TCA, right? And then it populates some information in there. You still need to go in and do the analysis, but at least it's right there. And so, and I've actually trained one of my team members to do TCAs. So I have him do a lot of TCAs, and then I go in and I'll scrub them and make sure that they are in alignment with my thoughts.
And I don't know if you agree with me on this, but I think that Mortgage Coach HomeBot integration and using HomeBot is super smart, because we all know that there's still refis happening.
Right.
There's debt consolidation refis happening. There's still some rate driven refis happening. And there is a likelihood over the next 6 to 24 months that there's going to be another refi tidal wave. And if there's a refi tidal wave, Mortgage Coach and HomeBot are like the two best technology tools to enhance your production. Would you agree with that?
I would, and I think, you know, like some top producing LO teams have like a dialer that just dials through the database. I don't have that. I actually think HomeBot is as good probably as a dialer, because you're giving somebody an interactive tool that they can play with. They can see what's going on in their neighborhood. They can see what happens if they were to refinance. And so then they're getting that every single month. So it's like a touch that you're getting from HomeBot. And I get a lot of interaction with that. The next thing that I haven't done yet, but I'm going to do this, is I'm going to start sending video out through HomeBot. So I talked to somebody who did that, and they went from their conversion with BombBomb to HomeBot. It went up 3x. Is how many people viewed their videos. So that's the next thing on my list as I start, doing more videos for my database.
So how many past customers do you have, Greg?
I've got about 4,000 right now.
Oh my goodness.
It's a lot.
Greg, we'll talk offline, but dude, you also need to get a concierge. You said you don't have that past client dialer. If you had a concierge, I mean, there's 400 loans a year sitting in your past customer database.
Right.
If you staffed it, you could get it. So I anybody listen to this, I recommend anyone with approaching 1,000, somewhere between 750 north of 1,000. I highly recommend that you have a concierge. So it's someone that's on your team and their full-time job is to optimize your retention. And that includes proactive calls and your reviews. That includes making sure that their HomeBot's working, either doing the HomeBot video as a home concierge, or like, hey, Greg, why don't you do this one? This is a VIP, and I think that having a HomeBot video from you would really make a lot of value. Right. So that is my advice to you and anyone listening to this.
I just took that down. I'm going to put that in my things to do here.
All right. Well, if you end up doing it, let's come back and talk about how that's going. But I've just interviewed too many top producers that just like, I'm killing it. And then it also helps that when, it's not if another refi tidal wave will come, when another refi tidal wave comes, you don't have to, you can stay focused on purchases, and you have your refi strategy staffed. And maybe you reallocate, you go from 1 to 2 refi people, but you can stay focused on agents. You can stay focused on your core, which is being a local provider to agents and buyers, which I think is where it's at. If you're local, I think that's the smart move. Yeah. So one person, Cliff, just posted, he said, do you copy the selling agent when you send a video to the listing agent?
I do. Hi, Cliff. How are you, bud? Cliff's a friend of mine. So yes. So what I do is when I am strategizing on a particular offer, right? So I kind of look at it as a funnel, right? So I've got people coming in, they're getting pre-approved, and we're starting with very high level numbers. I do start a TCA for them at that point, and then we narrow it down and narrow it down and narrow it down, right? And so part of the strategy when we are ready to make that offer is I want the agent to understand what is going on, right? So I'm sharing my TCA with the selling agent. I'm also sending, so what I'll do is, because I use text, I mean, there's probably some software I could use that's better, but because I use text, when I am just shooting a quick little video. I literally hold it up like this, and I'm doing a video, and I text it to the listing agent. And then I follow up the selling agent and I say, hey, I left a message, or I spoke to the listing agent and I sent this. And then I send the video. So I'm just using text for that. But yes, I'm letting everybody know what's going on. It's super, super important. Okay. Now, it's not only important for me for future business, but it's important for this client in this transaction, in this potential offer. Everything matters. That's why I'm saying it's 10x harder to get a client into a home in our market today, because we're doing this so many times and we're going the extra mile on every single client. Because my thing for agents, because I've had agents call me in tears, Dave. They're frustrated because they're spending a month showing, multiple people homes and they're not getting a paycheck.
Right.
Like, let's be honest. In the mortgage business, we're very blessed, especially in this low rate environment, that we can still have some refinance business and we're able to pay our bills. But there's a lot of agents that if their client is looking in an area where there's always, 15 to 20 offers on a home, they may not get a paycheck for a couple months, right? So to me, I look at that and I think, okay, if you're writing an offer, if you're taking the time to write an offer for this client, then I'm going all in. This is the Super Bowl. We're going to put it all on the table to try to help get that offer accepted.
So I want to back up on one best practice. You mentioned that you're doing a lot of text video. Are you also putting a video on your TCAs very often?
Always.
Okay. So
Yep.
Recommendation to everyone is have something in your workspace. This is what I have when I'm going to record a video here. If I want to do a video like somewhere in the yard or walking around, I have this. But I do recommend you have a goal of how many conversations you're going to have a day. You should have a goal with how many TCAs you're going to do a day and how many text videos. Those are like the highest impact touch points you can make. There's a case to be made for hand note thank yous. Also, that you have a goal of how many you're going to do a day in a week. But I do recommend you get a nice little stand for your workspace. And then I record a lot right on my deck outside of my home office. We've got a little deck with my backyard. So I just have a couple different places where I just put my phone in, go to the text, click the button, and roll. Recommendation for everyone, just a tactical suggestion on that.
I think the other one thing to add to that, Dave, is I think people still get in their way. I still hear, agents I'm talking to that don't want to do video because they don't like how they sound, they don't like how they look or whatever. You got to get over it on that.
Yeah, no,
people don't want to read a long email anymore. They want a video with you that's a minute or two explaining what's going on.
Yeah, and it really is. If you're local and you want to play at the highest level, like if you want to be your best, your local, video is not an option. And if you're not using video, just know that you're marginalizing your own success and your productivity. What it takes you to write an email that would equate a 30-second to 2-minute video, you're taking way longer to do it. And I've never misspelled a word in a video. So there's just another reason.
That's a good point.
to do it. All right. So let's do a tactical playbook on how you're winning in the bidding wars. And then let's transition to, I'm also hearing that there's more rate shopping going on than ever before. What one, could you validate that or tell me, do you see that being the case in your marketplace?
So rate shopping, I think especially with refi. So what we're seeing is remember, there's a lot of companies that basically, they don't even exist without refis, right? And so they are doubling down because for them, they're starting to see the end. And so they're doubling down, they're cutting their margins, they're making more phone calls, they're buying more radio ads, that stuff is happening. So I think just from a refi standpoint, there is rate shopping for sure. I think on the purchase side, and we had talked about this a little bit before, that I think the days of, you know, the Jones family comes and they're only talking to me, I think those days are over. So are they rate shoppers? Maybe, maybe not, right? Maybe, but maybe they're just looking for the best fit. That's what I'm finding. So almost everybody that I have a meeting with right now is telling me, hey, we are reaching out to 2 or 3 loan officers to try to determine who's going to be the best fit, right? If
Yeah.
you don't know that's happening, I'm telling you, that is happening. If somebody didn't come back to you, it's because you weren't the best fit. It may not have anything to do with your rate.
Yeah. No, shopping, I think, is the way we'll phrase it. And here's what I'd like to do. Robert, if you're listening to this, I'd love to get a poll that we can push in about 10 minutes with, how many different, are you getting shopped or not? Whether it's a rate shop or, hey, I'm talking to 2 lenders, what percentage of the time you're getting shopped? Everything from 0, 20, less than 20%, 50%, 80%, all the time. I would love those options. Also, if you just want to make a comment, how often are you getting shopped? But I think anyone who says they're not getting shopped a lot just doesn't know it, because I know that if you type in mortgage in anything, you do a search for mortgage, you do mortgage. If you say the word mortgage out loud, every time you do a search on Google, there's going to be mortgage. Every time you go into Facebook, shopping is becoming ever omnipresent, always
Right.
present. You can't touch a digital platform. And if you're thinking, talking, or searching about something, you're shopping. So let's talk about that. But let's do your playbook. What is your playbook for winning in a bidding war? Knowing that you're gonna, how many people are you competing with typically in Seattle?
Oh
Your
gosh.
buyers?
I will say on average, let's say a dozen on
Okay.
our.
So rarely less than a dozen. And it could be 20,
Rarely.
30.
Oh, we had one, I think it was 2 weeks ago now, 62 offers on one home,
Oh my gosh.
right? And so
12 to 62 offers.
right, it's just nuts. Now we're in a little bit of a window right now where I think like we are starting to see some people who aren't very competitive just because they're, using down payment assistance or they don't have money to cover a low appraisal. We're starting to see some of those people be able to get homes. And it's a strategy where I'm working with their agents saying, look, you need to start paying attention to homes that have a review period and look at the day after that review period, right? Because there are some homes that as the home prices keep moving up, right? And that comp that got bid up 100 or 200,000, that becomes the new benchmark. So then that listing comes up here. Now some of those homes are not selling right away. And that will happen. So we got to watch for that too, because it's an ever-changing market. But as a norm, we do have multiple offers and people are bidding over asking almost on every home.
So let's just go through your checklist one at a time, even if you're repeating something you already said.
Right.
I just want everybody to be able to write this down. For a guy who is doing better than last year, despite the wind at your face, I think we all want to know exactly what you're doing. So give us the playbook.
Right. So number one is when somebody contacts us, we immediately get them set up on a Zoom meeting. Okay. I don't want to have a phone meeting. I want to have a Zoom meeting with these clients. I want to see their reactions. I want to see, what they're thinking. I want them to see me. Like I want to get to know them.
You want to connect. You want to connect on a human level.
Absolutely.
Right? Are you meeting anybody in person?
Not really. Not yet.
Okay.
We're almost there. I think in Washington, the end of June, we're supposed to be, kind of fully open is what they say. But at this point, Zoom has been great as well. So I have my team set up a Zoom meeting with that client. We get that. That is the number one thing that we're doing. Okay. I know there's some people that they want to have all the documents and everything before they meet with their client. I'm not so rigid on that. I will urge that. But if they don't get all their documents in and they just want to meet with me first to talk about our process or to talk about how I can help them, I'm totally fine with that. right? In that Zoom meeting, we are covering literally everything. Okay. Like I'll give you one of the things I talk about, like, because somebody 20% down, 800 credit score, and they want to buy a $500,000 house. We know that's a conventional loan, right? I immediately ask them, have you ever served in the military? No. Okay. We're not going to talk about a VA loan today. Are you looking to live in the rural area? No. Okay. We're not going to talk about a USDA loan, right? And we just go down the loan programs. And the reason I do that is because I want to be that loan officer that's the subject matter expert. If you get me, and this is going to sound super cocky, and I'm sorry, but if you get me on Zoom and these other two loan officers that they're talking to, like, I'm going to win. I'm going to win more than I lose, guys, because I'm taking the time. I'm walking them through everything. There is not going to be a question when they get done with my Zoom meeting. There's not going to be a question where they're like, oh, Greg didn't talk about that, because we're talking about all the loan programs. We're talking about all the different ways to handle PMI if they're putting less than 20% down. We're talking about, all the possibilities. Okay. Then we dive into a TCA and I start talking to them.
Time out.
Yep.
Has that TCA already been created, or are you creating it on the fly?
Sometimes it's created if they've made application and we've already got them pre-approved, so we kind of know what their price range is and all that.
And who did that? Did you do that, or did one of your teammates do your TCA?
Both. So there's two people on my team.
Time out, Greg. The poll just popped up. I want to just give people a chance to do it. So how often are you getting shopped, everybody? So it looks like over 40% or 50%. We still have 20% saying less than 10 to 20%. So okay. So the takeaway here is 60% think it's less than 50%, and 50% and 40% think it's more than 50%. So that's where the audience is. By the way, everyone who voted, thank you. That is helpful and we appreciate it.
I think, and also just to piggyback on that, I think shopping, like you said, shopping is a all-encompassing term now. Everybody is shopping. It's whether or not whether they're grinding you, like, are they saying, Dave, I can get 0.125 better if I go over to this company over here. That's how we always think shopping is. Right. But I promise you, everybody is shopping. And so, one of the things that I'm really focusing on this year is to convert at a higher percentage. So when I get a lead, I want to convert at a higher percentage. I don't necessarily need to get more leads to do more business, right?
Yeah, well, that should be everybody listen to this, guys. Top two goals should be: one, conversion, because if you're converting at the highest possible level, that means you're delivering value at the highest possible level. And then you also become a referral magnet, because if you are delivering such an exceptional experience, you're going to get more referrals. And then number two should be retention. Are you retaining your customers so that you become that mortgage practice? It's like a snowball rolling down a hill. It's just getting bigger and stronger and bigger and stronger as it rolls. If you have great conversion and you have great retention, and you have it staffed, resourced, you're using all the tools, that is just a must, in my opinion. So cool on that. So Zoom versus phone, a very thorough discovery process, a very thorough coaching and advisory process. Sorry, I interrupted you. You have a TCA, so you go from questions, and then you start showing a TCA to them, or how does that work?
Yeah. So one of the questions that I ask is, what are the three most important things to you in getting a mortgage? And it's kind of funny, especially on Zoom, because some people will sit there and kind of stare at each other and then they don't know. And I'll say, okay, I'll give you number one. It's, what's your rate? Right. because we always know that's the big question, because they don't know what else to ask. And then we start down the line. I already know that they're going to ask about cost. That's just something that's going to come up in the top 3. I'm looking for those other 2 things. And that's where we start hammering home, right? So we do the TCA to show them the cost. We always do a minimum of 3 strategies. All of my TCAs have a minimum of 3 strategies and a video, because I want them to shop. I want them to shop at Greg Anderson. That's where I want them to shop, right? And so I want to show them that they can get 2.75 at a 1.5 or whatever, right? Because that's what some other competitors are doing, is they're jacking up the points and showing low rates. I want to show them that I offer that as well. But I also want to show them some strategies that I recommend, right? So we can have that conversation. That TCA gets built. If it's not already built, it gets built a lot of times in that Zoom meeting. So that means I have to be quick to be able to build that. So I can build that TCA in probably 2 or 3 minutes. And that's just the initial TCA. Then that opens up questions, right? Well, what if we paid $525 for a house instead of $500, right? So then I can start dialing in their TCA. That's part of that funnel. I start really, really big, really broad, and I start dialing it down as we go. Then I will share the overbid strategy, because I need to have that conversation with every client. Again, the worst thing that can happen to you is that one of the other people they're talking to shares a strategy with them that I didn't share, or something that I didn't talk about, right? I want to be the subject matter expert. And that's just, to me, that's just a really important thing. So my Zoom meetings typically take about an hour. And I know I've been criticized by some of my coaches saying, yeah, you take too much time with each client. But like I said, especially in this market, I feel like every single client that's making an offer, it's like the Super Bowl. We need to throw it all on the line. I'm not going to mail it in when somebody's making an offer trying to compete in this market.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt that you have to spend more time in this market, whether you have to spend a half an hour, whether you have to spend an hour. You need to wow people, you need to help people. And I think the big takeaway is treat every family like it's the Super Bowl, because you know what it is for that family.
Right.
And quick question. You said you give every family 3 strategies with a video in the TCA, and then you're also showing the appraisal gap. You call it the overbid strategy. Is that a separate TCA, or are you then fine tuning their TCA and showing it to them?
No, I have the separate TCA that I use for that.
Yeah,
just
and
to
that's
show them the example.
So guys, I interviewed Michelle Castle, who's another top producing leader last week, and same headline, winning the bidding wars in today's market. And by the way, so far I don't know if she's doing Zoom versus phone, but she's always showing a TCA. She's always showing 3 strategies, and she's always showing the appraisal gap strategy. So now the family understands, like, hey, if the house doesn't appraise, I'm good to go. Like, that's clarity and confidence, and that is a best practice. So I kind of broke that into 2 steps with you: Zoom versus phone, 3 strategy TCA, always show an overbid strategy so that they're clear and confident about appraisal gaps. Anything else you want to cover on that? Hey,
Yeah,
by the way, do you mind showing a quick TCA? Do you have a TCA
Sure.
that would kind of reflect what you're doing? Just so, first of all, if you're new to the mortgage coach community, TCA stands for total cost analysis. That is our advice engine. That is our platform. It's $120 a month. If you're new to the community and you're like, I don't have that, go to our website, either sign up from our website or request a demo and get started with Mortgage Coach. It's a pretty powerful tool, wouldn't you say, Greg?
Well, it's so powerful. I actually credit Mortgage Coach with changing my life, because what Mortgage Coach and the TCA has done for me is it's allowed me to illustrate what can be sometimes things that are hard to explain and get through to people, I can illustrate that. And the overbid strategy or the low appraisal, gap strategy is just one example of this is really, really hard to show with 3 fee worksheets and a phone call or whatever. It's super, super difficult, but you put this into a TCA and boom, you got it, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to show, I'll show you that if you want me to share that right now.
Yeah, well, I want people to tactically see it. Let's just spend a few minutes on it, and
Sure.
we'll put a couple links if you're watching this to where you can either sign up for a demo or just buy now. I'll put a link that just helps you sign up if you don't already have it. So cool. Notice he's got great branding, company branding, personal photo. Okay, tell us what we're looking at here.
Yeah. So, and of course, the video shows up down here in the right corner, and I already closed that out, so you didn't have to listen to me talk. But that all of my TCAs have a video down there that explain this, which is great. So one of the things that I really believe in is, again, being very thorough. So I want to give a very quick overview in my video that sets up a follow-up call. Because one of the things I love about the TCA is the live feature. So I can be sitting here and my client is looking at the same TCA on their computer. And when I highlight the first column, it highlights on their end. So this blows people out of the water. It's somebody who's probably too old to really understand technology. I don't really understand it, but they love it. So I'll just say that. Okay, so in this particular strategy, so this was actually, I originally did this for a client back on February 1st. So this was a client looking to make an offer on a $700,000 listing price, and they wanted to go up to $800,000. They did not have extra money to come in for a low appraisal, right? So we came up with this strategy to help them keep their money in their pocket, even if the appraisal came in low. So I have to show them what happens if the appraisal comes in just fine, right? That's our benchmark. So we see a purchase price of 800, we see a loan amount of 640, and we see a payment of right around 3,300, and we see cash to close of about 170. Okay. Now, if the appraisal comes in $50,000 low, we've dropped the sales price to 750, but if I go into closing costs into that strategy, I added a closing cost down here. Low appraisal amount to seller. Now there may be another way of doing this technically, but this works for me, right? So you can go in, add this custom fee. You can always add a custom fee, by the way, if you haven't done that before, then put that amount in there. So that's where the other 15 or the 50,000 goes. Okay. So you will see that we've lowered their down payment. So now we have to bring mortgage insurance into play. What I've done in this case, you'll see the difference between the 640 and 644, 672. The 4672 is the amount of their upfront mortgage insurance financed in. So all I did was I just bought out of the mortgage insurance and financed it. For these folks, that was really important. They really wanted their payment to stay around $3,300. So they weren't willing to take on another $100 or $150 a month. So we were able to buy out of the mortgage insurance. So their payment goes up $20. Okay. Their cash to close goes up $5. And that appraisal came in 50,000 low. They get to pay $20 more per month, and their cash to close goes up $5. Okay. Now, in low appraisal number 2, this final column here, this was if the appraisal came in at the list price. So again, as I was mentioning, if the house is listed for 700, it's kind of logical that it would come in at that because somebody has done a good job, hopefully, of determining what the comps are. So that appraisal comes in 100,000 low. Again, we're financing the mortgage insurance. So now it's $7,296. Payment goes up $30 over what it was on the original strategy if the appraisal came in without a problem. Cash to close is $9 higher than it was originally. So this is super powerful, not only for the client to understand, but for the agents to understand. And I have taught this to, I don't even know how many agents now, but several big agent teams where they have buyer's agents writing up a lot of offers, that they understand that this is something that is possible to do with your client, because a lot of them are freaking out when their agent tells them, hey, what extra money can you come in with for a low appraisal? And
So,
their loan officers are not covering this with them.
so Greg, two things. One, if you wouldn't mind either sharing a link to this in chat, you know, and if you're watching the recording and this is in YouTube, there'll be a link down below. If you're watching this in Facebook, we'll put a link down below. And just as a reminder, guys, when we did the Modern Real Estate Summit last month, a number of loan officers created videos where when you watch these videos, they showed a TCA, but they made these videos for real estate agents. So highly recommend you have a video where you're teaching the appraisal gap strategy to agents, and you're letting agents know that if your loan officer isn't doing this, your buyers they're not gonna have the confidence and the clarity to make the highest bid if they are not getting this appraisal gap education. And there's no better way to educate a buyer than Mortgage Coach. So part of our mission in Mortgage Coach is to change how people get into debt in America. They should always have options. They should always have strategies. They should always have clarity and confidence. And the only way to do that is with the Mortgage Coach TCA. If you're using a fee worksheet, it's good. And maybe you can talk, dance, and it's got you where you're at, but it's not the best possible experience for the consumer. So we're trying to get every realtor in America to demand, hey, loan officer, you need to be a mortgage coach. You have to be able to show the appraisal gap strategy. You have to be able to show move up analysis. You need to know how to show rent versus own analysis. Are there any other, let's just call it mortgage strategies that you're teaching consistently that are helping you win the bidding in the bidding wars?
It really right now, that's the biggest one is just making sure that our clients are going in as strong as possible. Right. And every situation is going to be different. So again, I said, we definitely are, calling the listing agent. We're working with the selling agent. I've had a countless number of three-way Zoom meetings with a selling agent and the buyer to be able to get everybody on the same page. Because what I'm finding out is a lot of agents are confused. They don't understand. This is something, like I said, I've been doing this 16 years. I've never seen a market this crazy. And depending on where you're at, even around Seattle, some of these agents they've never seen this before, right?
Yeah, right.
Seattle and Bellevue, maybe, because those are hotter markets, but south, if you get down towards Tacoma, they've never seen this before, anything like it. So they don't know how to write offers. And a lot of the managing brokers don't understand how to write these offers and how to, waive certain things and that. So it's a learning curve for everybody. And I think, again, just being that subject matter expert and working with the agents and the client to make sure that the offer you're making is the strongest you can, that's really where it's at.
Yeah, no, and we've just exploded at Mortgage Coach because of this. Both MGIC and Arch have actually built their pricing into the Mortgage Coach TCA. If you work for a company that's an enterprise client of ours, we can get those turned on for you. So helping automate MI, but their reps are also armed with a Mortgage Coach TCA. MI reps are out there teaching loan officers how to deliver this appraisal gap strategy with a total cost analysis. So we've only got 15 minutes left, and I want to hear, because I know another part of how you're winning is you're calling listing agents. I want to make sure we unpack that. We did get a question from Craig Davenport. At some point, if you could read that and answer it, it's kind of a mouthful, so I'm not going to read it to you. But why don't you share how important is it to either talk to the listing or give an agent, the listing agent video? How important is that to winning, in your opinion?
Well, I think engaging with the listing agent right now is absolutely, if you're not doing that, then that's the number one thing that you should implement today, right? You need to engage with the listing agent every time. I actually get mad at selling agents that don't tell me when they send an offer. And I tell them, like, if I was going to want to win this offer, here's what I would do. And you didn't even tell me that you made the offer, right? So I tell them up front now, this is how we work. So if somebody comes to me and they have an agent I've ever worked with before, I tell them how we do things. Because again, they don't know. They don't, if you think about from a mortgage standpoint, we could see, 2, 3, 400 transactions in a year, and a good agent might see 20, right? So we have way more reps in the gym than they do. So we, again, have to be the expert, and we have to tell them how to do this. So I'm reaching out to the listing agents, and here's the deal. And I sell this to my clients, by the way, in the Zoom meeting, is by me reaching out, forget the video, forget whatever else I do. By me just picking up the phone and making a call, I've already beat any online lender, any big bank, and any credit union. That already beat all those offers. So if you say the average is 12 offers, you figure, probably 8 out of those 12 are using a big bank or a credit union, because that's where people start, right? I already smoked them, they're gone. So now we're in the top 4 out of those 12. So now it's, what else can I do? And so then, one of the things, I watched Michelle Castle's interview you did last week, and that's something I've been doing for a long time too, is like, I try to be a partner with my agent and try to ferret out from that listing agent, what can we do? What's important to your seller? How does our financing look? Right? I don't want to just sit there and regurgitate and say, oh, they're great buyer, 20% down, they have great credit, all that stuff. I want to ask them, how does our financing look? The reason I want to do that is because I'm trying to engage with them. So all I'm trying to do is when I'm talking to a listing agent, my number one goal is to get my client that house. My number 2 goal is to wow that agent and look better than their lender does for them. Right?
Dude, that is so powerful. You made a really cool case for why loan officers need to call agents. I loved, we have more reps than they do, which is a truth. At least most loan officers have more reps than the agents they're working with. And then I love that 2 thing. I want number 1 goal, boom. Number 2 goal, you're recruiting that agent. I mean, you're auditioning for, this is what a local badass mortgage pro looks like. So I love that. You said you listened to that Michelle Castle interview.
Yeah.
Were you using the scripting where she opens with, I'm calling regarding XYZ property. My name's Michelle Castle, call me back. Or did you have a different script?
I don't like, so I love her script and her strategy there. I tend to be a little bit more like transparent from the standpoint of, like, I tell them why I'm calling. So I will use the address. By the way, if you're not using the address, you're going to call an agent potentially that has 5 listings, and you're going to confuse them, and you're going to look unprepared. Okay. So when you call an agent, you need to say, hey, I'm calling about 123 Cherry Street. I have a client who's really excited about this home. It's a beautiful listing. Would you mind giving me a call when you have a moment? I would love to talk about how we might be able to work together on this one. Right. Great. And then I'm doing a follow-up video.
Love that. What about the TCA? I know from past interviews I've done with you, you're always looping in the buyer's agent or the seller or the buyer's agent with the TCA, right? Because you're always just showing them that, hey, I'm not your average fee worksheet loan officer. I am giving advice and coaching.
Right.
So they're looped in. Is there a time where the listing agent is ever familiar with a TCA, or is that not really on point?
I kind of leave them out of it because I don't necessarily want to muddy the water.
I don't
Um,
disagree with that. I don't
but
disagree with that.
look, TCA is one of my number one selling features. Okay. Like I'm not guaranteeing the lowest rate in town. I'm not, giving fees back, refunds and all this stuff. I don't do that.
Well,
My number one value is I'm going to make sure their client gets the best mortgage for their family. That's my value.
so two things I want to hit before we make sure we answer questions. So we only got 5 minutes to do these
Okay.
questions. And then I want to do 5 minutes to make sure anybody that asked a question gets it answered. But to win the deal, and know that you're auditioning, whether you're getting grinded on rate or whether they're just picking their lender. How is Mortgage Coach helping you when, let's just say with rate shoppers?
Right.
How is that helping you?
Well, I think, like I mentioned, if you're giving folks more than one option, right? And again, we do 3 minimum. Most of the time we're doing 4, but we're going up and down the rate sheet. So we're showing them, hey, here's what it looks like at 2.5 or 2.75, but here's what it looks like at 3.25, right? I mean, we're showing them all those options. I think, again, looking at yourself as you're the storefront, and you want them to shop at your store, right? You don't want them going out everywhere else. Now, does that mean I don't get shopped? No, of course I get shopped. There are people who literally just want the lowest, the cheapest, everything. And those clients are not my clients. And we figure that out early on in the process because I'm asking a lot of questions in my Zoom meeting. So what I would say is, and I have LOs, I have 4 LOs in my branch, and we talk about this all the time because, of course, they lose a deal because of rate or whatever. And my first question that I ask any of my LOs when they lose a deal is, did you have a Zoom meeting? Did you do a TCA? How many strategies did you provide in your TCA? Okay. And here's what I find, which is weird. Oftentimes when they lose somebody, it's because they didn't take the time up front to develop the rapport with that client and be the subject matter expert, right? That happens most of the time. Now, again, you're not, none of the people that are listening to this call offer the lowest rate. I promise you. There's somebody else that will always beat you in rate. You do not want to join the race to the bottom. So you have to be using the advice. And when I first got into using Mortgage Coach, Dave's, his phrase was from price to advice, right? And that's still today. I mean, that's all we're doing is we're trying to combat people who are willing to do it cheaper by adding more value, right?
So guys, so we don't spend more time on this. Here's a LinkedIn article I wrote a while ago. It's called How to Win Even When You Have Higher Rates. I interviewed actually Jason Nutzman in your marketplace. I don't know if you know Jason,
I don't.
but he's a regional leader in that market.
Okay.
He runs a big region for Absolute Mortgage, and they've done a study 2 consecutive years that loan officers that use Mortgage Coach are 9 basis points more profitable. Means they get shop less, and when they do give an exception, they give smaller exceptions because they use a total cost analysis. So if you want to know more about that, if you're a manager on this call, highly recommend you read this. But hey, loan officers, read this, because when you're in that knife fight for shopping, not only are you at risk at giving a price exception, but you're at risk at losing that loan. And there's unconstructive tension taking place between you and the consumer, and you're at risk of losing referrals. So you need to learn how to navigate that conversation. We've also got a conversion playbook. So if you want to optimize your conversion in LinkedIn, I have the Mortgage Coach lead conversion playbook, which is literally the most viewed LinkedIn article I've ever written. Check it out. So we got 5 minutes left, Greg.
Okay.
Which question? Let's ask Craig's question.
I see there's some questions. I want to add one little thing.
Okay.
When your client misses out on an offer, okay, they're not the winning offer. Call them. Tell them you're sorry that they didn't win this house. We're going to absolutely go back to the table and figure out how to win the next one. It's a very emotional process. they had missed out on a house they were really excited about. Their kids had already decided which was their bedroom, and now they didn't get that house. That's another little thing that I'm doing this year, for sure. Okay.
Dude, yeah, wait. Time
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
You're the first person in all the interviews that I've done that's called that out. And I mean, instantly was like, wow, what a magical moment, because that's what leaders do. You know, when it's hard, when it's not the fun call, they make the call. And I would just imagine that most loan officers don't do that. And they don't show the empathy that they could, and they don't get the bond and the loyalty that you get. So the only thing missing from what you're doing, bro, is you need to have a team member dedicated to client concierge, so that, because it sounds like you're just doing it all right. Like when someone comes into your world, you're spending a lot of time with them, you're emotionally connecting with them, you're delivering amazing service, and maybe month after month, year after year afterwards, you could put a little more love on that. But thank you for calling that out. And everybody start doing that if you're not doing it. Always call when you lose. That's a winner's call, bro. All right, so let's do the Q&A.
Okay. So Craig had a question explaining the appraisal gap strategy to the listing, or to the agents, really. So yes, this is absolutely something that I take advantage of, making those calls to the listing agent and also the selling agent. When we're writing that offer, I'm explaining this to them so they understand. And they understand that, you know, and it's funny because, again, there's managing brokers that don't understand this. So I've had a lot of education calls with agents, with managing brokers, to explain why they can either waive the appraisal altogether, why they can put in a very high 22 AD form, you know, for a low appraisal. It just takes education, unfortunately. I don't know if there's a better way of telling you how to do that. You basically have to just educate them, and it's hard. It's really hard to get across. Sometimes it's like beating your head against the wall, but we owe it to our buyers to put them in the best possible situation. And if you take that time, you'll get future referrals out of it. Then the next two are basically the same. Like, what if it's somebody who doesn't have 20% down? So what I'm doing is, if it's a first time buyer and they're, say, putting 5% down conventional, I'm showing them what it looks like if we come in low and they could do 3% down. If they're putting 10% down, I show them what it looks like if it comes in low and they can only put 5% down. So it isn't always you're going to come in with $100,000 for a low appraisal, but we've won offers if it's 10,000 or 15 or 20,000. So I just feel like you have to have something to be able to compete. With an FHA client, David's question, we have a down payment assistance program in Washington State. And so what I'll show them is what it looks like if they use the down payment assistance as opposed to the FHA. That is a little bit more confusing, and it's definitely, you know, it's a different program. So you have to get people prepared for that one. So unfortunately, I will tell you, there's just some people who can't compete. If you don't have any money, or you're already using everything you have just to come in with the down payment, then have the agent start looking at homes that are past the review date, because they're not going to be competitive with other buyers at that point. And that's just a sad reality of our market that we're in right now.
All right, guys, we're going to go into wrap up mode. I just did put a link to the lead conversion playbook. It's in our YouTube. Well, it'll be in the YouTube video. It's in the notes. So go to chat right now in Zoom, click on it, read it later. I mean, that's one of those things that you should read a couple times a year. And Greg, we didn't have time to get to mid-year planning, but maybe we'll bring you back and do a call in a week or two. Maybe we'll get Jeremy and you on the call, and we'll talk about, hey, how do champions prepare to crush the entire year? And part of that is how you started the year. Part of that is your quarterly reviews and your mid-year review. So let's save that for another call. Any last words of wisdom before we close out today's call that you want to share with everyone?
You know, I just think doubling down on the fact that every client that is choosing to go with you and making an offer in this crazy market deserves the absolute best service that you can provide. So if you got a fish on the hook, reel it into the boat. Don't just cast another line.
So, and a reminder on his playbook, Zoom versus phone. He's spending a full hour, but whatever that full Zoom meeting is, give that family everything. Number two, every family gets a total cost analysis with 3 options, and he's making sure they understand appraisal gaps. Number 3, he's engaging with the listing agents with 2 primary goals. 1, to win the offer for that family. Number 2, to wow that agent so that he can recruit that agent. And number 4, always call when you lose. That's what distinguishes champions from everyone else. The family will appreciate it. Greg Anderson, dude, you are the man. Appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you.
Audience, if you got value from this, give us a like down below. Share this with your mortgage friends. If you are a manager, we are creating content every week. I personally interview multiple loan officers every week. I don't expect you to watch them all, but look at the headlines, look at who I'm interviewing. Should you watch one mortgage coach video once a week? Absolutely. And please engage in our Facebook group, ask great questions. If someone asks a question that you can add value to, give a comment. That's what makes the mortgage coach community special. It's you. Take care, everybody. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Dave.